Hello, I'm Gaston Gosselin, the Collage and Music Fellow for the 25 and 26 season, and today I'm joined by composer Angélica Negrón, who will be having her piece Las muchas formas de una isla uh, performed uh, performed at her upcoming concert on April 26th at 3 p.m. Angélica, thank you for joining me here today.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Just to start off with, what can you tell us about your piece, and how does it relate to this idea of home that is the topic we're trying to explore for this coming concert?
So this piece, I think of it as a shift in my compositional output, and and a continuation as well. I do have a lot of music that is connected to this idea of home. I am originally from Puerto Rico and have been living in New York for the past 20 years. My whole family is still in Puerto Rico, so I go back and forth a lot. And I write a lot about this connection to home as someone from the diaspora and this longing for a home. But in this one, it is very much kind of shifting that thinking into questioning what home truly means. Just kind of understand that home might not be something that is fixed and that it is really shaped by people, like memory, landscapes, places across distance, and that it is not just one place. And so this piece incorporates a lot of like field recordings from both Puerto Rico and also New York, which is also home for me, and plays a little bit with like just extremes of soundscapes, like for example, beach waves and snow, but then seeing how like finding the common sonic qualities that make them both feel familiar. So I had a lot of fun like playing with fragmentation and with abstraction and seeing how I could make sense of these two things coexisting harmoniously together, even though they
Mhm.
seem very contrasting at first sight.
Yeah, and a lot of the music you've written is this like delightfully whimsical intersection of like electronics and found sounds and acoustic writing. And for all those listening, Angelica also taught a class on microsampling for O Academy, a course that I'm enrolled in currently, about 3 months ago. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about what your journey has been like in this whole realm of found sounds and microsampling and how you came to introduce all these things in the way that you do.
Yeah, I mean, I started composing kind of late, I guess, for composers, around when I was around like 20, 21. And I've always been super curious about the sounds around me. So even if I wasn't composing formally, I was playing with sounds. I was really drawn to just like a hyper awareness of the sounds around me, and collecting sound objects like music boxes. I had a cassette tape and recorder that I would use to record a lot of things, and I loved the lo-fi quality and like playing around with that in my laptop. So I've since the beginning, I mean, even before writing for traditional instruments or orchestral instruments,
Mhm.
I was playing with the sounds around me and kind of just really curious about layering and processing and modifying um, and altering natural sounds, whether those came literally from nature or from things in my kitchen or my violin, but just like played in a different way that was very liberating because I didn't have to think about like the proper technique, which is how I grew
Mhm.
up. So I think that's always been there, and I would say um, in the past, 25 years of my exploration with music, it's been I, I'm I'm constantly surprised that I it hasn't changed much. My style has changed, but that sensibility stays very true to that initial almost childlike impulse of
Mhm.
exploration and discovery and wonder of like, oh, here's this cool sound. here's how I can transform it into something else. So I just now do it with many other instruments and many other different combinations of instruments and in different contexts, but it is the same kind of impulse.
Yeah, and for this particular piece in question, are there any particular sets of sounds that you really found yourself gravitating towards?
Yeah, I really recently had like VHS from that I found from the 80s from my childhood in Puerto Rico. I had those digitized is the word. I don't know if it's digitized or digitalized.
Digitized,
Um,
I believe is the right way, but
digitized, thank you,
I feel
thank
like
you.
I would go back and forth as well.
Yes, I'm like, oh. So I recently had those VHS digitized and I've been playing a lot with the audio from those. Like, so there are like samples from my 10th birthday party with all my cousins and I'm an only child, but I grew up around many kids because my mom has 8 brothers and sisters. So kind of the best of both worlds, having lots of cousins, but also having my own me time when I was home by myself. But yeah, you can hear some of that. There's also like recordings from visits over the years to the island, recordings of birds from the northwestern town of Moca. My cousin has a farm in Trujillo Alto, and her daughter Isla is very active in taking care of the chickens. So there's like audio from her telling me about the chickens and there's also a lot of recordings from New York too, like Crunch Footsteps in Snow. Um, and I especially winter sounds in New York. This was particularly a really rough winter this year. And I always escape to Puerto Rico for at least a month during December, January, and then it's always really tough to come back. But I was kind of leaning into that discomfort and seeing how like fragmenting those sounds. So you know, I'm describing them, but when you hear them, they're very, very pixelated and
Mhm.
stretched, layered, transformed, and processed in a way that is abstracting them. But I was interested in this idea of like finding within texture and rhythm, like seeing how snows could transform into beach waves and kind of create a sonic space in which two environments that might seem opposite could overlap as I experience them in my life.
Yeah, I think there's so much in what you said that at least I could personally relate to. My dad and my grandmother are both one of 11 siblings in their own
Mm.
respective families, so the large families
Wow.
are always something that I think is really nice to relate to, even if, as you mentioned, being an only child.
Mm.
Um, and also the crunching of the footsteps. I personally live in Boston. We're very familiar with crunchy snow.
Yeah.
Um, but I was also trapped in New York for that snowstorm that
Oh,
you just had. Yeah, so
yeah.
got to see a little bit of how you guys were doing with that.
Oh my
Well,
God.
very
It
cool.
was yeah, it was rough, but also I don't know, it's such a satisfying sound for me. The crunching of footsteps in the snow and um like the difference of like whether like depending on the shoes you're wearing, depending on where you're
Yeah.
stepping and the time of the day, if it um rained before, just like yeah, it's just yeah, so I try to, you know, sometimes I'm just annoyed at it and wish I could be in the warm beach. But there's also I try to like also lean into that wonder to also as a form of survival too, because you
Oh,
know, I would love to be with my family in Puerto Rico, but it's just not possible. So also trying to find like this like the magic and in the everyday and seeing how that can help me push forward.
yeah. And I think to wrap up here, I would love to know what is you mentioned home being both in New York and Puerto Rico and how you kind of long for one or the other. And I was wondering what is something that's really distinctly home for you? For some people, it's like a place, it's the bed they sleep in, it's this one particular family member, or it could be like this as I've been telling everyone, this like one really specific pastry that only this one coffee shop somehow makes exactly the way that you are familiar with. You can't find it anywhere else. You're like, ah, oh, this croissant is exactly the exact one that it screams home for me.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah.
you have something like that in your life that you would love to share on a very personal level?
Hmm. Um, I travel a lot for work and I always come back to, I think my dog. My dog Midi feels like home. Like,
I'm sorry, your dog's name
um,
is Mitty?
yes.
Like, oh my gosh, that's so dorky.
It is very dorky. Like MIDI in, MIDI out. It was a joke and then it just stuck. But MIDI, yeah, who's like just turned 10, but for me he feels like home. He when he was younger he used to travel with me a lot for work things and it just helped so much. And I just came back from two back-to-back trips and just like yeah, it's just like his fur, like I'm a very sensory driven person, like his fur, his smell, even with these things, it's just like it just feels like home. There's something very comforting around it. So yeah, I think him, but also, I mean, pastries, I would say there's a very specific tres leches that I get from like a kind of really nice supermarket in Puerto Rico. Um, and it's tres leches is my favorite dessert, and the one they make is just the perfect amount of like moist and it's so good. So yeah,
Yeah,
that
growing
also
up in
for me.
Miami, tres leches is also my favorite dessert.
It's so good. And
It's
it's
so
also
good.
so people also mess it up quite a bit actually, at least in New York. So, yeah. Um yeah. Have you
Well,
ever
I
had
guess
coquito tres leches? Tres leches like
I don't
that's
think so. I'll have to
with the
try this out.
coconut. Oh my God, it's so good. That's also really
Well,
good.
I have clearly a new dessert to try out. So
Yes.
Angelica, thank you so much for joining me here
My
today,
pleasure.
and
Yeah.
can't wait to get to hear your music live at our
Yeah.
upcoming concert on April 26th at the Longy School of Music. Angelica,
Very
thank you
excited to
again.
be there. Thank you so much for having me and can't wait. Take
All
care.
right, see you
Adios.
around.
Ciao.